See you tomorrow.
Good night.
Tonight, a flying start to the Sydney to Hobart as 2 yachts are forced to turn back. A violent day on the job for 2 police officers at Casula. 10 years on, the world reflects on the Boxing Day tsunami. Post-Christmas splurge, Sydney-siders flock to the shops for the Boxing Day sales. And Steve Smith leads the way on a hard-fought day at the MCG.
This is 9 News with Amber Sherlock.
Good evening. Nerves are running high tonight as more than 100 yachts tear south across the ocean in the 70th Sydney to Hobart race. Embracing a spectacular Boxing Day tradition, crowds gathered to wish them farewell as they embarked on one of the most testing races in the world.
It was a sensational panorama of white trails and wind-filled sails as the yachts made their breakneck escape down Sydney Harbour. The Blue Water Classic never looked so blue as the leaders of the fleet headed for the open sea made a right-hand turn under a perfect sky, then braced themselves head-on into a stiffening southerly. The race to Hobart off to a magnificent start. Spectators jostled for prime position while others took a far more relaxed approach. Hey! A party on Sydney Harbour or watching the big boats play. It began with a morning of meticulous final preparations that started as the sun came up. Surfer Sally Fitzgibbons, one of a handful of celebrities taking on the open water challenge.
I'm going into the unknown. I haven't experienced this before, so I'm just kind of going with the flow.
For Danny Green, it'll be his second time on board Perpetual Loyal.
Going in the race, I'm very, extremely confident that I'll spew, and we're here to win.
Skipper Anthony Bell said goodbye to his lucky charms. His boat renumbered 408 in honour of cricketer Philip Hughes.
Now's I guess the time to line up and have a proper dig.
Also having a proper dig will be billionaire Jim Clark and his supermodel wife Christy Hinds. They're hoping to cause a major upset with Comanche.
I'm excited for them. I think they're going to surprise some people.
The crew set sail, poking fun at jibes about the new big and bold design.
Fat bottom girls, you make the rockin' world go round.
Primarily is like get there safe, big girl. Get the boys there safe.
The stiff competition will be from Wild Oats 11. Skipper Mark Richards hopes to steer the Super Maxi to her 8th win, but even those without a multi-million-dollar yacht had their very own support crew, even if they had to stay behind.
We just got married last Saturday and very lucky my wife allowed me to go.
There was plenty of well wishes.
Happy birthday to you.
Then at 1 o'clock, off they went, a 628 nautical mile journey to Hobart. It may look fairly calm now, but once the crews make their way past the heads, it'll be a whole nother story. A southerly front will bring strong winds and rough seas, testing the skills of many. It started off gracefully as thousands packed vantage points along the harbour.
Every year we come here and it is just the most amazing thing.
The battle has begun for the 70th Sydney.
For the very latest on the race, Nine's Vicky Jardim joins me now. Vicky, how are they going out there?
Well, Amber, it was off to a spectacular start, but it looks like they've got a few rough hours ahead. The leaders are tracking south of Wollongong and Port Kembla, where there's a strong wind warning. That wind is expected to reach up to 30 knots offshore. Conditions will ease rapidly a little later in the evening, but here's how the race is looking at the moment. Perpetual Loyal is leading the way, followed by Ragamuffin 100 and Comanche. Wild Oats 11 is in 4th place. We'll bring you a full report on how the race is going a little later in the Bulletin.
OK, Vicky, thank you. It was bad enough, 2 men and a woman fighting among themselves, but when police intervened, they should have known better than to tangle with the law. The brawl at Casula happened right in front of a 9 News team covering a nearby house fire.
Boxing Day.
Hey guys.
Literally, a full-blown brawl breaks out on a driveway. Police run to intervene. One man shoved away, the other fights back. A rumble across the driveway, then a crash tackle. The man locks his arms around the officer's legs, clearly agitated and resisting arrest. 9 News called 000, but the constables gained the upper hand. The cuffs finally went on. The mission to the paddy wagon, though, was never going to be easy. Our crew had been in Casula reporting on a house fire when nearby we spotted one of the men and a woman feuding. We alerted 2 officers guarding the scene of the fire. They responded swiftly, arresting the woman wanted on a warrant. That's when the men started jostling. The older of the 2, apparently angry the couple's public dispute had drawn police to their home. While the drama unfolded out the front, here at the back of the home, neighbours say it looked like an escape plan was underway. A person seen climbing out a window down a ladder.
From what I've seen from the footage, they handle themselves very well under difficult circumstances. It's not easy to apprehend and arrest somebody who's resisting so violently.
A dramatic turn of events that resulted in 3 people being charged. Renee Henry, 9 News.
And at that fire in Casula, a brave deed left a 30-year-old man with severe cuts to his arm after a suspicious blaze burned out a townhouse. The man was injured as he battered on doors and windows to wake residents of surrounding units. More than 50 people were evacuated.
I'd like to say thank you and hope one day something nice happens to them.
Police suspect the fire was deliberately lit. A desperate search to locate a man who went missing in the Murrumbidgee River near Wagga Wagga will resume tomorrow. The 25-year-old was swimming at Illawarra Beach with a friend yesterday afternoon when he was swept downstream. It's believed he may have been drinking before going into the water. A serious crash on the M1 at Mooney caused significant delays for drivers heading out of Sydney today. The collision between a fuel tanker and 5 cars shut 2 northbound lanes just after midday. Traffic was queued back for more than 10 kilometres. Mourners have gathered across Asia to remember the hundreds of thousands of victims lost in the 2004 Boxing Day tsunami. A decade on, the scarred landscapes have healed, but for those caught up in the disaster, the horrors that haunt them will never fade.
Across the arc of countries that border the Indian Ocean, a decade has not diluted the memories of Boxing Day 2004. Cubic kilometres of sea would smash into the shorelines of Indonesia, Thailand, Sri Lanka, India and the east coast of Africa. The deadliest tsunami in recorded history. At least 230,000 people would die or just disappear. That day still sits prominently in the minds of Les and Diane Broadman, who were walking along Patong Beach in Thailand when the waves hit.
It sort of picked me up on the front of the water, but it caught Diane and a car rolled over the top of her.
When I got washed in under a building, and that's where I was pinned down with this vehicle on my leg. I'd said goodbye to everyone, thought I was gone.
Just in your own mind?
Yeah, and then just then it all lifted and I was able to surface up.
Even as Les searched for Diane, he was forced to make immediate life and death decisions as one man grabbed at him as Les hung to a pole against the swirling waters.
It was either let him go or both of us would go, because the current was so strong and so forth. So that's what I did, I just let him go.
Moments later, Les would find Diane.
I think my words to him that he wasn't getting away from me that easy.
After taking refuge atop a tall structure with 20 other survivors, the second, bigger wave would hit.
And it just took all before it. There was nothing left after it had gone through. The first one did a lot of damage, but the second one, I mean, we were just lucky that our building survived it.
Diane would be evacuated to a hospital on high ground. Within 6 months, the Broadmans would return to the hospital with over $100,000 raised to help with reconstruction. But Boxing Day 2004 literally changed the world. and will never really leave the memories of survivors such as the Broadmans.
We did say our goodbyes when we saw that second wave coming. We both said goodbye to one another. That every night we go to bed, we look at one another and say, well, we're here for another day.
Mike Dalton, 9 News.
For a family, it's been a heartache. For police, a mystery, trying to find out who murdered Rodney Scarman in Redfern on Boxing Day 3 years ago. Now, detectives are hunting for new clues to the killer, who they believe is a local.
Robin Turner spent her Boxing Day looking for answers. Her brother, Rodney Scarman, was murdered 3 years ago today. His killer remains at large.
It's torturing to my mind emotionally. It's agonising. That's our life now.
The 52-year-old was bashed to death inside his Housing Commission unit at Redfern. Police have described it as a savage attack. His body was shoved inside an electrical cupboard.
I think people don't realise how serious it is and the impact it does have on people and the impact it does have on family.
Rodney was a well-known resident in the complex. Hours before his death, he'd been seen out on the street in an agitated state.
We believe it was perhaps a transaction gone wrong, a drug transaction gone wrong, and at this stage we don't believe people went there purposely to murder him.
His family are desperate for the case to be resolved.
Anybody that thinks that they may know anything, to think if this was a member of their family that this has happened to, that they would think about that and maybe come forward.
Detectives today returned to Walker Street to door-knock neighbours, handing out flyers in a bid to jog memories. They're confident Rodney's killer lived nearby.
Police say they have strong leads in this case. They're hoping that people who were reluctant coming forward with information 3 years ago may now have a change of heart. Laura Tunstall, 9 News.
Along with the cricket and the Sydney to Hobart, Australia's other great Boxing Day sport is, of course, shopping. Kate Creedon has been tracking the bargain hunting crowds down. And Kate, as always, it was a hectic day.
As you can see, Amber, it's absolute mayhem, and outside it's even worse with traffic around the centre coming to a standstill. But if you don't mind the crowds, there's still plenty of shopping time left in the day, with the stores here at Westfield Bondi Junction and in the city open until midnight tonight. And of course, bargain hunters got off to a very early start, making the most of the biggest sale of the year.
After lining up all night at 5 a.m, bells sounded the start of the Boxing Day sales. And it was every shopper for themselves. The first stop, handbags, then dresses. And if the shoe fits, well, buy it.
I've got a pair of sandals and my mum got a pair of Converse.
Designer handbags, I mean, that's it. You know, actually it was fantastic before Christmas on designer handbags, but, you know, first day of sale, that's the first one they go for.
Newly engaged, Jacinta Campbell was on the hunt to buy for her footballer fiancé, Buddy Franklin.
I'm going to pick him up a few little things. I mean, there's great discounts on men's business shirts, and I know all men need a beautiful collared shirt.
More than 1 million men's business shirts will sell during the sale, like this Jack London shirt, 50% off at $54.50. And 600,000 pieces of lingerie will disappear. This Elle Macpherson bra, now $41.97. Over at Myer, bedding, electronics and homewares were the biggest sellers.
A lot of saucepan sets, particularly right the way through to crockery and cutlery, has been really good.
These Sheridan bath towels reduced from $39.95 to $24.95.
Carrying on mum stuff at the moment, but haven't found anything for myself just yet.
If Christmas is about giving, then Boxing Day is about spending. In fact, we'll each spend about $850 on ourselves at this year's sale.
There's lots of people spending money. You can hear the tills, as they could say, ring, but yeah, look, it's good.
By close of business, we'll be $2.1 billion poorer. But who says you can't buy happiness? Kate Creedon, 9 News.
The cost of renovating the lodge in Canberra has blown out to more than double what the government originally estimated. Contractors have been working on the rundown Prime Minister's residence for more than a year now, replacing roof tiles, rewiring and removing asbestos. Documents reveal the upgrades are now billed at $6.3 million. It was an intriguing start to the third test at the MCG. Tim Gilbert joins us now, and it is always a colourful occasion, Tim.
Always love Boxing Day. 70,000 cricket fans were at Melbourne's sporting mecca today, watching Australia and India battle it out. It was a proud day for the newest member of the Baggy Green Club, Joe Burns, making his test debut on the game's biggest stage.
A traditional Boxing Day cultural collision at the MCG. The Swami Army spiced things up in the stands, while the Aussie fans managed more simple chants. Even on a cramped cricket calendar, a day at the G is a must.
I've never felt more Australian.
Boxing Day debutant Joe Burns is the newest face in the crowd.
Where's Joe? Where are you hiding, Joe?
Bill Laurie's message, a simple one.
Enjoy himself. You know, it's just a wonderful thing to wear an Australian cap, particularly first in Melbourne on Boxing Day. I'll never forget it. I just hope he goes on to be a great player.
The 25-year-old business and finance student jagged one of the greatest days to pull on the baggy green.
Growing up through the years, we used to talk about all these sorts of things, and Joe's already talked about Boxing Days on the back deck watching the test match, and so it's almost surreal that we're actually here watching it happen live.
A bit overwhelming, trying to understand what it really means, and I really didn't get it till I got here at the MCG and realised how many people and the sort of following cricket has.
This was the moment Burns has waited his entire life for.
Well, here he is on debut on Boxing Day in front of 70,000 fans.
Burns belted 2 boundaries, but there was no fairy tale for the unlucky rookie, caught behind for 13.
Burns has to go.
Yvonne Sampson, 9 News.
In the news ahead, a Lidcombe home shot at with 5 children inside. Also, topless protesters turn heads at the Vatican. And how our troops celebrated Christmas Day in the Middle East.
Get ready for the mother of all.
A family has escaped serious injury after their home was sprayed with bullets in Sydney's west. 5 children, one just 5 years old, were inside the Lidcombe property when the gunman opened fire.
5 children, 2 disabled, all terrified after surviving a drive-by shooting.
You had a lot of kids in there though, a bit scary.
Yeah, of course, yeah, very scary.
Majid Al-Assadi and his family were having breakfast inside their Yarram Street home this morning when someone fired 3 shots and sped off. Police shut down the street minutes later.
We thought one of the kids, he fell over or something. Then the second bang was a bit stronger, louder.
Just last week, a car was set alight in the driveway of the same home, and that wasn't the first time the family has had trouble.
Mr Al-Assadi was parked next to this station last year when he was shot with a taser and sliced with a meat cleaver. He managed to chase his attacker down, grab the weapon and sever the man's hand.
Mr Al-Assadi was found not guilty of wounding with intent after arguing it was self-defence. He believes an Auburn family is behind all 3 incidents, part of a campaign of intimidation.
Because they don't respect nothing. There's no respect for children, for families.
Police have not confirmed a link.
I'm scared about my kids. Maybe they outside, and if any shot come here, no, it's scary.
Kelly Fedor, 9 News.
The family of a Jordanian Air Force pilot captured by Islamic State militants has pleaded with the group to show him mercy. The pilot's father has now called on the group as Muslim brothers to return him safely. It's still unclear what caused the fighter jet to crash while on a bombing mission over Syria. A 13-year-old girl has accused her parents of handing her over to Islamic extremists to be used as a suicide bomber. The Nigerian teenager was told to detonate her vest in a busy marketplace, but refused and was taken into custody by authorities. 2 other girls followed the orders, killing 4 people in the attack. The Pope has used his Christmas address to denounce religious persecution across the world. The Pontiff asked people to pray for those who were suffering at the hands of IS militants in Iraq and Syria. There was a minor security scare in St Peter's Square when a naked woman stormed the nativity scene, grabbing a statue of baby Jesus. She was swiftly arrested by Vatican police. After 16 years in politics, Julie Bishop is no overnight success, but there's no doubt 2014 has been a huge year for Australia's first female foreign minister. While she's happy in her current position, Ms Bishop, like most politicians, won't rule out a tilt at the top job. Nine's Kerry Yaxley sat down with the foreign minister.
What is this thing called jet lag?
To say Julie Bishop is the busiest woman in Australia wouldn't be too much of a stretch. She's visited 37 countries in 15 months, taken countless flights, chaired 2 meetings of the United Nations Security Council, held bilateral meetings, trilateral meetings with world leaders from all corners of the globe.
You obviously would know a lot of world leaders, a lot of foreign ministers. Any favourites?
Former Dutch Foreign Minister Frans Timmermans and I became very close friends. A former Secretary of State for the United Kingdom, William Hague, was also somebody that I came to know very well. Of current foreign ministers, Secretary of State John Kerry and I get along exceedingly well. I sound like I'm name dropping, don't I?
That's all right. I think you're allowed to.
And I always try to exchange mobile phone numbers so that we can text each other wherever we are in the world, and that has come in very handy in some pretty crucial situations to be able to text a foreign minister and say, where are you, I need to talk to you.
And also getting a ride back from Myanmar to Sydney.
Yeah, like the poor cousin, I couldn't get a flight back from Myanmar that would get me to Sydney in time to meet Secretary Kerry at the airport in Sydney. And I found out that he was going to be in Myanmar and would be flying back. So I rang up and said, can I have a lift on your plane?
Why not?
And he said, why not? I think the State Department was a little taken aback by the request.
It's that self-assured determination which helped her get the first meeting with Vladimir Putin.
Oh, absolutely. Look, I'm going to shirt front Mr Putin.
At home, the Prime Minister created uproar when he threatened to shirt front the Russian leader at the G20 summit, after Russian authorities refused to accept any responsibility for the downing of MH17. On the sidelines of an international summit in Italy, it was Julie Bishop who secured the breakthrough meeting.
It was more like a diplomatic buttonholing than a shirt fronting. After that meeting, we did see the Dutch authorities get access to the site. That's what I asked him, to use Russia's influence over the Russian-backed separatists to enable the independent authorities to get onto the site.
It was an early morning phone call that alerted the Foreign Minister to the horror which had taken place in the skies above Ukraine.
When my phone rang at 2 a.m. in the morning on the 18th of July, I knew it wouldn't be good news, but not in my worst dreams did I imagine I would be told that a Malaysian Airlines flight carrying a number of Australians had been shot down. I knew at that moment that we had a huge challenge ahead of us, but I didn't realise how much of a challenge it would be over the coming months. We knew that we had to get our people home.
According to opinion polls, Julie Bishop's popularity has skyrocketed among voters. Magazine Harper's Bazaar has named her Woman of the Year, and she puts it all down to a focus on big international events and her role as Foreign Minister. But her successes and popularity beg the question, does she want to lead her country?
I am in my dream job. I came into politics with a secret hope that one day I would be fortunate enough to be the Foreign Minister. So I am living my dream.
But you couldn't rule it out?
I'm not going to play this rule-in, rule-out game because it doesn't matter what I say, the media will then try and make something of it.
Us.
Us? Who? Me? I just want to emphasise that I could not be more proud or more privileged to be Australia's Foreign Minister.
Lovely to see you again.
Over Christmas, the Foreign Minister will be turning her attention to domestic duties.
You have to have inexhaustible supplies of energy for this job. So I'll just take a few days off to renovate the apartment and have a bit of a spring clean.
Kerry Yaxley, 9 News.
Now here's Natalia with a look at today's weather. Good evening, Natalia.
Good evening, Amber. It was a warmer than expected Boxing Day in Sydney. The city hit 30 degrees, 32 the top at Penrith and 31 for Richmond, a cooler 27 on the coast at Cronulla. It followed a very wet night, our wettest Christmas since 1942. 29 millimetres of rain fell in the city in the 24 hours to 9. Mona Vale was drenched with 47 and Hornsby 40 millimetres. Campbelltown had 34. There is more rain on the way this weekend. I'll tell you when it's going to hit and how much we can expect in the gauges a little later in the Bulletin. Amber.
See you soon. Thanks, Natalia. Our troops have celebrated Christmas at military bases across the Middle East. In Kabul, servicemen and women unwrapped gifts from home, getting into the spirit of the silly season.
We've done a Secret Santa, or given each other gifts, which is good. You know, it livens it up a little bit, makes us be able to actually feel like home.
The day was capped off with a good old-fashioned Aussie barbecue. Tim is back with the rest of the day's sport live from the MCG.
Amber, it's evenly poised at stumps on day one, but skipper Steve Smith has continued his stunning form with the bat. The highlights are next. Also, good news on Michael Clark's recovery from surgery and a mounting casualty list as the Sydney to Hobart fleet is battered by a southerly sting. Steve Smith's remarkable summer continues. The Australian skipper a standout with the bat on a hard-fought opening day to the third test. Smith is unbeaten on 72, while Chris Rogers and Shane Watson both notched half centuries. At stumps on day one, the Australians 5 for 259.
Boxing Day and a step up to the heavyweight division for debutant Joe Burns.
Congratulations, all the very best.
Rogers copped the first blow. Warner the second.
Got him! Yes, he has! Warner's gone for a duck. It's 1 for none.
But the opening run summed up what was a dismal session for India as misfield after misfield allowed Watson to find his feet.
Now slashes away for 4 more. 13 from the over.
And on the stroke of lunch, another stroke of luck.
Oh, Say's put it down. A chance.
Rogers then notched his third straight 50. Watson his first since the same test last year. But just as quickly, both were gone.
Was edged. Oh, that's where the shout too. Tap.
At 3 for 115, it became slow going before Marsh finally broke the shackles.
Oh, good shot from Sean Marsh. 1 bounce and 4 runs.
After tea, Smith also went over the top.
He does it beautifully. Great use of the feet.
But Marsh lost his way.
Got him! Yes, he has! Big wicket for India.
That brought Burns to the crease with the tourists suddenly fired up, even taking aim at the captain. And while the crowd cheered the debutants every run...
And he's gone for him. He's done it very, very well.
He'd make just 13.
But Burns has to go.
Unfazed, Smith passed 50 in 1,000 runs for the calendar year as India went bodyline on the out-of-form Haddon.
Surprise, surprise.
The keeper responded the only way he knows how, doing more than just survive before stumps. Ayrton Woolley, 9 News.
It's been a very entertaining first day here at the MCG, and I'm joined by former Australian captain and 9 commentator Mark Taylor. Mark, first up, Steve Smith.
Absolutely terrific. Really, the last 14 to 18 months from Steve Smith has been superb. 6 test hundreds, and it seems to me he's enjoying the captaincy, and it's certainly not holding him back.
Shane Watson now, after seeing Steve Smith bat so brilliantly and without a care in the world. Shane is at the other end of the spectrum. He's struggling. He made a half century today, but he was dropped earlier on.
Well, nice to see him have to work hard, and he did work hard today. I like the fact that he pushed a few balls around and picked up some singles today and didn't just rely on hitting boundaries, but still hasn't got that big score. I think that's something like 23 half centuries to go with 4 test match centuries. So still a few unanswered questions by Shane Watson today.
Well, in the area of unanswered questions, Sean Marsh.
Yeah, a bit the same. Looked good or looked okay. The feet aren't quite going right for him at the moment, but got to 32 and really just had to hang in there with Steve Smith, as we said, is in great form. So a missed opportunity from him today.
Finally, it's got a real feel about it, this test. You can see a few twists and turns coming.
Absolutely. I really enjoyed today's play because it was a good old-fashioned day. 5 for 259. Both sides are still in it. Anyone's test match.
Thanks, Mark. Well, you had a extra head in the commentary today. A change of role for injured skipper Michael Clark, who spent the day with the Channel 9 team, Mark included, as he recovers from surgery on his hamstring. But he's still getting plenty of treatment.
I'm seeing Alex Contouris, the Australian physio, every morning and every night while I'm down in Melbourne. I'm back on the bike this week and hopefully I'll start running next week, which is, like I say, real positive signs for me.
Clark says Steve Smith has been outstanding, but is looking forward to returning as skipper in the new year. Comanche proved it's a real chance of ending Wild Oats' dominance of Sydney to Hobart, the American giant, leading the fleet out of Sydney Harbour. Wild Oats is closely marking its main rival, while Perpetual Loyal and Ragamuffin are also right in the hunt for line honours.
A picturesque view of Sydney Harbour, but the yachts didn't stick around long enough to enjoy it. Comanche powering out of the heads, leaving the harbour in the fastest recorded time in race history.
Wow, 4 minutes, 35 seconds to the turning mark. That's got to be a record.
Wild Oats 11 right on her tail.
They actually have good speed. It's just that Comanche is that much quicker again.
All 117 yachts survived peak hour, but it's predicted to be a rough ride ahead for the smaller boats.
There's 622 miles to go now, and
it's great. There's a crew of 6 and they'll get to know each other pretty well over the next 3 or 4 days.
The Supermaxis got rid of some extra luggage. Camera crews overboard.
See you later, guys. Have a good trip to Hobart. I'm out of here. She's gone.
And the battle south was underway. The 23-man crew of Comanche leading down the Sydney coastline. It's a battle of tactics. Comanche and Wild Oats are both heading well out to sea, leaving Perpetual Loyal in front, closely followed by Ragamuffin. But the race is already over for Bare Necessity and Tina of Melbourne, early casualties of a bumpy ride south.
We fell off quite a large wave. I'm falling off the wave, a bit of a bang, so one of the crew went down below just to ensure that everything was okay. We noticed some water ingress, so at that point we decided that the prudent thing to do was to retire.
And late today, Illawarra and occasional Course 2 were also forced to retire. Danica Mason, 9 News.
Sydney FC haven't won a game in 4 weeks and they'll be desperate to change that when they face Adelaide United tonight at Allianz Stadium. There's currently a match in progress, Melbourne City up against Perth Glory. The score is locked at 0-0 at half-time. And it's going to be a ripping second day of the third test, Amber, tomorrow here at the MCG, and the weather, again, set fine.
Sounds great. We can't wait, Tim. All right, in the news ahead, the special exhibition offering new insight about Australia's war heroes. Also, the Sydney families trading the city for a greener way of life. And the shark that sparked panic on a popular beach. As the 100-year anniversary of the Gallipoli landings approaches, a very special First World War exhibition is on its way to Australia. Artefacts, including some of our own, are being brought here from London's Imperial War Museum.
In 1917, with World War I still raging across Europe, the Imperial War Museum was set up in London as a way of acknowledging an unprecedented conflict. Today, it is the largest and most important collection of wartime memorabilia in the world.
There's such a variety of experience. Some people, it was a huge adventure, and for others, it was complete tragedy.
Over the last 97 years, the museum has grown in size and in meaning. And now, for the first time ever, more than 350 treasured artefacts are temporarily moving home and taking up residence at the Melbourne Museum.
And there are some objects that we've chosen for the exhibition specifically because they were some of the very first collected by the museum back in 1917 and meant so much to the museum that they've pretty much been on display ever since.
The specially curated multi-million-dollar exhibition will be a near replica of what is on display in London. a multi-sensory, multimedia journey through the war that changed the world. The touring collection is made up of everything from letters and photographs and artwork to uniforms and mementos. Then there are some big, significant pieces.
One of the most important pieces that we're sending out on tour is an artillery piece which probably fired the first British shell on the Western Front in 1914.
Of course, there are some items specifically related to the Australian perspective of the war. Visitors will be able to see fragments taken from the aircraft of Manfred von Richthofen, the German ace who was known as the Red Baron and who is believed to have been shot down by Australian ground forces. With the exhibition being timed to coincide with the 100-year anniversary of the Anzac landing at Gallipoli, there is also a focus on that campaign.
One of the sketches that we'll be including in the exhibition is a very kind of quick sketch of what's happening right at that time.
Most of these items are nearly 100 years old, so moving them from one country to another is an impressive but time-consuming feat. And for several months, a special conservation team has been combining science and art to prepare the artefacts for the trip.
Some things are very delicate, other things are surprisingly robust. It depends on what materials they're made out of and how much they've deteriorated over those 100 years. For example, with something like this, there is so many different materials. There's glass, plastic, textile and metal, and they all have to be treated in slightly different ways. It does have a lot of surface dirt on it. I have to try and clean the insides of these lenses without damaging the plastic that's within them.
The actual process of transporting the artefacts to Australia is, as you would imagine, fairly complex. Every single item has to be individually wrapped and boxed, and then they're placed in these custom-made crates for the journey itself. The concern is not just that the items might break, but that the drastic change in environment could affect their condition. The exhibition will run from April to July next year.
Can we look at the First World War in a different way? 100 years on, you know, it's our time now to think about what this war meant.
In London, Amelia Ballinger, 9 News.
If you're dreaming of a tree change, you're certainly not alone. A growing number of Sydney residents are trading city life for greener pastures and getting paid to do so. The government is offering thousands of dollars in relocation grants to lure families and their businesses to our regional centres.
Sick of their fast-paced lifestyle and an oversized mortgage, Catherine and Paul Backer have swapped the beach for the bush.
Living on the northern beaches was quite full-on, just with traffic. It took you so much longer to get everywhere.
The couple relocated their family and business to Albury 2 years ago. They purchased this 4-bedroom home for $300,000. Their commute to work has gone from 45 minutes to just 10. Their new factory is twice the size and a third of the cost of their previous premises. And now they enjoy overseas holidays with the kids.
Once we made our mind up and looked at did our homework on the business side of things, everything else sort of was easy after that.
It's all part of the Evo Cities initiative designed to attract families to regional centres. Since 2010, 7 towns, including Albury, Armidale, Bathurst, Dubbo, Orange, Tamworth and Wagga Wagga have joined in the campaign. The government will pay up to $17,000 in grants to families willing to make the move. More than 1,500 City Slicker families have headed bush as part of the Evo Cities program, swapping traffic jams for views like this. There's more affordable housing, cheaper living expenses and plenty of fresh air. And that's just a few of the sweeteners for those who desert the rat race.
It's about us giving them the opportunity to live their life and live their life without the pressures that they get in a super city of Sydney, Melbourne or Brisbane.
Early Walsh, 9 News.
A shark has scared swimmers out of the water on the New South Wales mid-north coast. Locals spotted the unidentified species as it silently glided past a bridge between Foster and Tuncurry. The 2-metre predator then swam off and hasn't been seen since. In the news ahead, royal no-show, the notable absentees at Sandringham for Christmas. Also, an ice-cold approach to burning off Christmas lunch. And Natalia has the forecast for the weekend. Now to our top stories. It will be a bumpy night for the Sydney to Hobart fleet with strong southerly winds forecast. Less than 6 hours into the race, 4 yachts have already been forced to retire. 3 people have been charged over a Casula street brawl, which was all caught on camera. Commemorations are taking place across Asia on the 10th anniversary of the 2004 Boxing Day tsunami. And Steve Smith has dug in against India with wickets tumbling on the opening day of the 3rd test at the MCG. The royal family has gathered at Sandringham for Christmas with a few notable exceptions. William and Kate were without Prince George, while the Duchess of Cornwall was also a no-show.
Hundreds of well-wishers braved the bitterly cold Norfolk air to line the route to the Church of St Mary Magdalene, many hoping for a glimpse of young Prince George. They were disappointed, but his parents did their best to make up for it. William and Kate happily stopping to chat, while Harry even got a festive proposal.
He didn't say anything, so I have to wait for the next time.
You have to wait maybe next year?
Maybe next year.
Having caught the train to Sandringham, the Queen drove to church for the traditional Christmas Day service. Prince Philip walking in with Princess Anne, while Prince Charles was without wife Camilla. The Duchess of Cornwall a no-show, having been advised by doctors to rest after putting her back out. There had been speculation the Queen may abdicate, with bookmakers suspending betting on a Christmas Day announcement. But the 88-year-old monarch is showing no sign of slowing down or stepping aside. In her Christmas message, the Queen paid tribute to medical staff fighting the Ebola outbreak in West Africa.
I have been deeply touched this year by the selflessness of aid workers and medical volunteers who have gone abroad to help victims of conflict or of diseases like Ebola, often at great personal risk.
The theme was reconciliation, with Her Majesty noting commemorations to mark the 100th anniversary of World War I.
The ceramic poppies at the Tower of London drew millions, and the only possible reaction to seeing them and walking among them was silence. For every poppy, a life, and a reminder of the grief of loved ones left behind.
Meanwhile, the Archbishop of Canterbury was unable to deliver his traditional Christmas sermon after coming down with a severe cold. In Sandringham, Andrew Lund, 9 News.
A group of brave German swimmers certainly earned their Christmas dinner after going for a morning dip in an icy lake. The Berlin Seals, as they're known, plunged into the 5-degree water with only swimmers and Santa hats to keep them warm. Natalia is back now with the weekend weather forecast.
Thank you, Amber. Some rain is on the way this weekend, but just how heavy will it be? I'll have the full forecast right after the break. Hello, much warmer than expected today. It also became quite overcast and breezy this afternoon. The city reached a top of 30 degrees after a low overnight of 20. Penrith was the hotspot today. It hit 32, 31 at Richmond. It was a touch cooler along the coast, 27 degrees at Cronulla. Sydney had a very wet night. In fact, it was our wettest Christmas in 72 years. 29 millimetres fell in the city and 47 at Mona Vale. As we take a look across New South Wales, the storms today were mainly confined to northeastern parts of our state. Kempsey has had about 36 millimetres. To the satellite and a trough is bringing the showers and storms to northern parts of New South Wales. The south is being hit by gusty southerly winds, so it is going to be a rather uncomfortable night for Sydney to Hobart sailors. Tomorrow, a trough will again bring some wet and stormy weather to the north of our state. Around the country tomorrow, storms for Brisbane, partly cloudy in Adelaide, and 27 the top there. And Perth is heading for a very hot 34 degrees tomorrow. They've had some lovely weather lately. For the test of the MCG, it'll be a mostly sunny day. Melbourne is heading for a top of 23 degrees. In New South Wales, rain is expected across the north of the state, including in drought-affected areas. Falls could be quite heavy as well. 28 the top in Narrabri, and further south it will be sunny. 29 in Albury and at Wagga Wagga and Bega, heading for a top of 24 degrees. In Sydney, a cloudy day is on the way. 23 the expected top after the temperature dips to about 18 tonight, and the pollen count is set to be high tomorrow. And tomorrow will be much cooler than today, right across the suburbs. 24 at Penrith and Kellyville, 23 degrees the top at Parramatta and in Gosford. Then Sunday is going to be wet. 10 to 20 millimetres of rain is expected to fall, a top of 23. A shower is possible on Monday and 27. Tuesday is the pick of the days, sunny and 28. We could get a shower on New Year's Eve and 25. New Year's Day is looking good, partly cloudy and 27. In our west, showers on Sunday and 23. A possible shower and 32 on Monday. Warm and sunny on Tuesday. There is the slight chance of a shower on New Year's Eve, heading for a top of 28. And another shower is possible on New Year's Day, 33 degrees. So not looking too bad. Amber.
Bring on the sunshine. Thanks, Natalia.
Absolutely.
Well, that is 9 News for this Friday. Cameron Williams is next with The Current Affair. I'm Amber Sherlock. Thanks for your company. Good night.